Okay, well in this lesson we're going to talk about something called double exposure. Now this is a term for photography where you actually shoot something over the same piece of film twice. Like for example, you can see in this picture we obviously have a woman's head. We also have this forest scene, right? And these are all examples of double exposure, and it can create some really dramatic and cool effects. Now of course you can do this with a camera, but you can also do it in Photoshop, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do right now. So this is one I was playing around with. You can see the double exposure effect here. We've got a man's face, and then we have basically the ocean swirling around in the background. Now let me show you what this looks like. This is the original photograph, right? This is the original photograph. Here is an image of an ocean wave, and then I ended up combining them into a double exposure. Now, the way this works, it has to do with layers and modes. And I'm going to explain what that is, okay? So I'm going to start here with the picture. And notice that it only has, right now, a background layer. That's all there is, right? I'm going to go to take my ocean picture, and I've selected the whole thing here. I'm going to copy it, right? Go to Edit, Copy, go back to this picture. Now I'm going to go to Edit and I'm going to paste. And what's going to happen is it's going to paste it over, and it's going to be a new layer. Notice that I can always hide the layer by clicking the little eyeball, and I can see, oh yeah, there's the background layer underneath, and there's the top layer on top, okay? That's how it's set up so far. Now you'll notice here inside this layers panel, there's a little thing here that says normal. Now these are what are called the modes of the image. And it turns out there's quite a few of them. And if I click on them, you'll kind of get an idea of what I'm talking about. That's the one called dissolve. And here's one called darken, color burn. Each one really represents the picture in a completely different way, right? They're all quite different. Now, the one that I'm going to use here is called screen. And if I click on it, you'll see that, hey, it's already kind of happened. I already have this basic double exposure effect, but it's a little overwhelming. It's a little hard to tell what's going on. So I'm going to experiment with this a bit. So the first thing I'm going to do is play with the opacity. The opacity has to do with how much you can see through it. Like right now it's set at 100, so you can't see through it. But if I pull this down, what happens if I go all the way to about 30 or so? The further I go, right, the less you can see layer one, the ocean layer, right? So if I want just a little hint of the ocean, I can keep it pretty low. I might bring it up to here around 75 or so, right? So I've already made a pretty big change here. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the Move tool here, and with the ocean layer still selected, look what I can do. I can move and I can reposition it because maybe I want it to be a certain way. Like maybe I want the wave to be more crashing, showing his eye, whatever. I can experiment by moving it. You can also scale it down or change its size and so forth, with the transformations that we did before, with the edit and the transformation, you can change all these things. So I'm just going to leave it like that. Now I want to alter this a little bit more. So there's another step here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually go on my ocean layer, and I'm going to add what's called a mask. Now you're familiar a little bit with this because we used masks when we did the color selection project. But watch how this works. I'm going to click on this little rectangle button here in the corner. That's going to add a mask onto the ocean layer. Now then, I make sure I've got black selected here, right? Make sure it's black. If these are reversed for some reason, just click on this little clicker. Make sure black is the top color. Then I go to my brush. Now, watch what happens. If I paint with black, what it's doing is it's erasing a little of the ocean. This is really like what you did with selective color. And I can actually start to change this a little bit, right? And I can of course experiment with the actual brush. Like for example, I have the opacity set down. If you have the opacity on all the way, it becomes a little bit harsher, like it really takes it off completely. I don't really want it to go off that much, so I'm adjusting the opacity downward to around 50 or so, just to make it a little bit more subtle, right? I want to make sure people can still see that there's a person here. And of course, you just experiment and get it the way you like. You can always undo something. So I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable with how that looks. So there you go. You can see how I adjusted the layers with not only a new mode using the screen mode, but also a masking layer so that I could actually erase some of the ocean to make it look just the way I want it to look. So there you go, double exposure.